Hello, Charles Knapp here, and today I'm talking about mugwumps. And if you go to The Secret by Byron Preiss, back of the book, Mugwumps, this is the art you're going to find. And this is the wording that goes with the art. And really, we're looking for connections. We're looking connections between the different back of the book fairies and descriptions. And we're also looking at artwork for deciphering or decoding that into clues that help us find the puzzles. These puzzles are specifically are located by clues in the back of the book that will actually tell us perfectly exactly where the casks are buried. But first we got to figure out which of these descriptions go with which puzzle. So let's look at the wording. We have politics, blast of hot air, baffle gab, gobbledygook, dirty tricks, scams, and we have Nixon on the left side. Notice that Nixon is misspelled, and if you know the back of the book, you know about typographical terrors, typographical. Nixon should have an O in it. Politics, hot air, gobbledygook, and Richard Nixon was known for his dirty tricks. He got a nickname from his 1950s campaign for Senate, as his nickname being Tricky Dick. And that nickname stuck with him. On the right side, we have, talks about mugwumps, and the information the mugwumps gave the native Aliquan tribe. It was bum information. It was baffle gab, gobbledygook, didn't make any sense, or it was just an outright scam, because today there are no more Aliquans. You can see how this works. And mugwump comes from political scene. It's a political term, and you can see it talks about the Potomac and political on the following line right there, how mugwumps guard the Potomac. Okay, spotters tips are very important because they help to localize where the casks are and point us in the right direction. Well, mugwumps are most often sighted in the vicinity of the free lunch. Well, a lunch is found, free lunch, or the guy eating a lunch is seen in Job Goblin. Job Goblin is a San Francisco artwork, and also connected to San Francisco and New York. But that's how these connect together. That's what spotters tips. There's clues in Job Goblin for the San Francisco puzzle. There's the 345. There's the riots at the waterfront and how far that is to Coit Tower, for instance. All that information fits together. And also in Job Goblin, you see a train. And that's why it talks about gravy train. It's just words connected together to connect the dots, connect the puzzles together. Also, chicken and potatoes, that's New York. San Francisco and New York are linked together, as we've discussed many times before, and you'll see that again in some of the photos, particularly in the back of the book. But the bottom line, what Mugwumps is about is red herrings. There are red herrings that are in these puzzles, and you'll see that here in a second. So we have to interpret the art. So we have hot air balloon, suspension lines, Richard Nixon with the nickname Tricky Dick. You've noticed there's a lot of shadows. New York and San Francisco are shadow puzzles. You see these signs that are long rectangles. That's a red herring. So that we start thinking about stadium lights. And also, hot air, that phrase originated from, or Mark Twain used it in his early work back in the 1850s. It appeared in The Gilded Age, a novel by Mark Twain. And I like this graphic right here because of the discussion of illusions. And Eric Thomas pointed out that the back is that's what the back of the book is. There's a lot of illusions. Otherwise, it just doesn't make any sense. You have to interpret the art. You have to dig out the illusions. So getting back to our analysis here, the analysis of this would be something like hot air balloons, suspension lines, and the eyes are very important in the art. You'll see it over and over again in the art. Where are the eyes looking? Particularly if you look at the tax burden, some of the others. One eye is looking out at us in this art, and one eye is looking down at Richard Nixon or Tricky Dick. So the interpretation is we have been duped. We, because the art, he's looking at us. We have been duped by Richard Nixon. That's the mugwump. We've been tricked. And it's a red herring. Basically, it's telling us Mugwumps is about red herrings, about being tricked. We also note down here, it's one of the last things I picked up, these loopholes. Loopholes that's connected to San Francisco and New York. And I've shown that in previous videos. And that's how these puzzles connect us together and guide us. If you have to look and say, why is that art drawn that way? And then if you look at the lower right and say, why is this one guy? Is he saying that Richard Nixon is number one? I don't think so. I think he's giving a different hand signal. He's saying he's not buying the BS. He says, I don't believe you, Richard Nixon. And this is what I think. And I think that's a little bit of humor by the artist, JJP, John Jude Palancar. So, getting back to the drawing, I was duped. I thought this was talking about Candlestick Park with the stadium signs, because Candlestick Park was known for the windy conditions. Of course, you had baseball out there. Baseball stadium, you see the signs, you see the stadium lights. They're not square, normal signs. They're long, they're rectangular shaped. And that's why in the art you have the shape in the art of the mugwumps as elongated rectangular. Now, this is some more. This would connect you to baseball with San Francisco, which is fine. But the meaning behind this is that San Francisco and New York both involve giants. You look in the back of the book, giant column, giants like corporate giant and economy size, all these figures that have giants in them, you should be looking for New York and San Francisco clues. That's the purpose of this. You see San Francisco and you see New York giants, San Francisco giants. That's what we're being told here. Not that we're supposed to look at Candlestick Park for a cask. I was duped. Here's another part of the dupe where the mugwump got me, was if you look at San Francisco, actually follow the green line. This is Florida, Gulf right here, and then you can see it follows around. Behind him is Mexico. This little sliver going up is the West Coast. And you see what the giant is smoking? And remember, San Francisco, New York giants. What you're looking for is a giant and clues in the giant. Well, I found or thought about the clue. He's smoking a candlestick. Candlestick Park. That's incorrect. That's a mugwump. It's a red herring. And if you look back in some of the press, you can see Nixon visited Candlestick Park, particularly baseball players, and when it was being built. And I mean, it's just a lot of information that points you to Candlestick Park. These are red herrings. That was the purpose of that. And if you look at this, when they said good riddance to Candlestick, I mean, the Beatles were out there. There's a art drawing in the back of a musician. So there's all these clues that might lead you the wrong direction. And we certainly have a lot of misdirection and red herrings if you read through the posts on online about where these casks are. So The bottom line is you can follow the trail marked by the mugwumps, and there's red herrings. And the red herring in this puzzle is Candlestick Park, and also can lead you down the wrong road with baseball. And you also see, here's a link to Alibi Elf, is the gavel. Talks about justice, and maybe justice isn't a knot because of all the gobbledygook. Also loops and loopholes. And so that's the bottom line with the mugwumps. It's about red herrings. Don't get caught up in red herrings is the message. Thank you.